In the stillness of night, whispers echo where people no longer walk, where shadows remember what history forgot. These are the stories of the places where the veil thins. This is the truth behind the Haunting Podcast. The Myrtles Plantation. Nestled beneath the twisted limbs of ancient oaks draped in Spanish moss, deep in St. Francisville, Louisiana, stands a grand antebellum mansion with a dark, whispered past. They say it's home to at least 12 restless spirits, and some say far more. This is the story of Myrtles Plantation, a house built upon blood, betrayal, and secrets that refuse to die. Myrtles Plantation was built in 1796 by General David Bradford, a man fleeing prosecution for his role in the Whiskey Rebellion. Over the centuries, the home passed through many hands, each owner adding another layer to its haunted legacy. Officially, records show one murder ever took place here. But folklore tells a very different story. Up to 10 murders, some say, and each one left a spiritual stain. The most infamous ghost of Myrtles Plantation is a young, enslaved woman named Chloe. According to legend, Chloe was owned by Judge Clark Woodruff. She was allegedly forced into a relationship with him and later caught eavesdropping outside a door. As punishment, her ear was cut off, and she wore a green turban to hide the scar. To exact revenge, or regain favor, Chloe baked a poisoned birthday cake laced with oleander. Instead of just the judge, his wife and 2 daughters ate it. They all died. The other slaves, fearing retribution, hanged Chloe and threw her body into the Mississippi. Her spirit, they say, never left. Visitors report seeing a woman in a green turban silently watching them from the windows or standing at the foot of the bed. But Chloe isn't the only spirit said to roam the plantation. The Woodruff children, dead from poisoning, are seen playing on the porch and hallways. Guests have reported tiny handprints appearing on mirrors and unexplained giggles in the night. An ornate mirror in the main hallway is said to contain the trapped souls of Sarah Woodruff and her children. Despite frequent cleanings, handprints and smudges appear from the inside.
Well, the story about the kids, you'll get all that on the tour,
Okay.
supposedly. Big long story, but the one of the house servants had baked a cake with oleander, wanting the children to get sick and call for her because she had spent most of her time raising them. She overdid it on the oleander and they died from the cake.
Okay.
That's just 2 children that have died here. I don't think we've had other children. We've had a couple more children die here just from natural causes.
Okay.
Back in those days. It was pretty common. But there are several children spirits here. And a big misconception is they want to know who the person is and how they died here. And it's not just people that have been here, lived here, died here. This is just kind of a center for spirits.
So you think that
So there's a lot of children spirits, not just those 2.
Okay. You think that it's more than just a... You think that it's an attractant?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. And we've had people who specialize in those type things come and tell us the actual spiritual center of the house, of the property, is actually inside the house in the
Okay.
ladies' parlor. But it's interesting because everybody says, well, I got a picture of this ghost. Who is it? And what did she do here? I'm like, I can't tell you who that is. And we've caught people that are modern looking and they say, well, they're not dressed in period clothes. I'm like, well, if they died yesterday, they could still be a spirit. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of kids that aren't necessarily the 2 that you hear about on the tour.
A soldier in Civil War grey has been seen limping through the halls. Some believe he died on the grounds after being shot. One former owner was reportedly shot on the porch and staggered inside, dying on the stairs. Now, a bloodstain appears again and again, refusing to be scrubbed away. Today, Myrtles Plantation is a bed and breakfast, but guests come for more than mint juleps and southern charm. They come for the ghosts. Countless visitors have reported cold spots, shadow figures, doors slamming on their own, phantom footsteps climbing the stairs, terrifying dreams and sleep paralysis in room 4. In one instance, a guest took a photo of the house and discovered, clear as day, a young girl in a turban standing between the columns. There was no one there when it was taken. Is Myrtles Plantation truly haunted? Or have time and tragedy twisted history into legend? Some say it's all just stories, passed down to sell rooms and scare tourists. Others swear they'll never go back, because what they saw, felt, or heard inside these walls was very real. Haunted house, or house of haunted history. We leave that to you to decide. This is the story of the Cooneen ghost, also known as the Cooneen Poltergeist. There's a small village tucked away in the Irish countryside called Cooneen. It looks like any other peaceful rural town, green fields, stone walls, winding roads. But over a century ago, this place became the epicenter of one of Ireland's most disturbing and enduring ghost stories, a tale of torment, mystery, and a family allegedly driven to the edge of madness by something they could not explain. This case begins in the early 1900s. In a lonely cottage just outside the village of Cooneen, a woman named Mrs. Murphy lived with her 6 children. Her husband had died a few years earlier in an accident, and the family struggled to make ends meet. But it wasn't poverty or grief that brought them notoriety. It was what started happening in the house when the lights went out. According to the family and later witnesses, the disturbances began subtly. Unexplained knocking sounds, footsteps in the attic, and furniture that seemed to shift overnight. But it escalated fast. Soon, the family was plagued by violent poltergeist activity. Objects flew across rooms, windows shattered on their own, and most terrifying of all, they claimed to see a dark figure, sometimes described as a hooded man, standing at the foot of their beds. Some nights, the children were dragged from their beds by invisible hands. Even the local priest couldn't explain what was happening. Word of the haunting spread. Journalists and clergy investigated the home. Some believed the children were imagining it. Others suggested witchcraft, or even that Mrs. Murphy was cursed. But the story didn't end in that cottage. In an act of desperation, the family fled Cooneen. They boarded a ship for America, hoping to leave the horror behind. But they didn't. According to letters sent back to Ireland, the disturbances followed them across the ocean. Objects moved on their own in their new home. The hooded figure reappeared. The nightmare continued. So what exactly happened in Cooneen? Skeptics claim the story is rural folklore, a mix of grief, isolation, and superstition. But others believe it was a true case of poltergeist infestation, or perhaps something demonic that attached itself to the family. To this day, the original cottage still stands in Cooneen, and those who dare to visit it report the same thing. A heavy silence, a sense of being watched, and sometimes the sound of knocking from inside the empty walls. Whatever haunted the Murphy family may still be waiting. If you like this investigation into the Cooneen ghost, subscribe for more true paranormal stories and let us know in the comments. Do you believe the Murphy family was haunted or hunted by something else entirely? It's known across the world as Dracula's Castle, but behind the myth, behind the novels and the vampire tourism, lies a place with a far older, darker history. A place where real screams once echoed, and some say they still do. Welcome to Bran Castle, Romania's haunted fortress. Bran Castle was built in the 14th century, perched on a dramatic cliff near the border of Transylvania and Wallachia. It was originally a strategic fortress, protecting the mountain pass from invaders, but its fame comes from something far more sinister. The 19th century novel Dracula by Bram Stoker gave the world a bloodthirsty image of the vampire count. While Stoker never visited Romania, many believe he based Dracula's home on Bran Castle, and that association drew attention to the castle's real ghosts. Did Vlad the Impaler live here? Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, ruled Wallachia with terrifying cruelty. Stories of his impalement of thousands became the stuff of legend and helped inspire the Dracula mythos. Did he live at Bran Castle? Historians say, probably not. But he may have been imprisoned here for a short time. Still, the energy of violence and death that hangs over the castle today is very real. Visitors to Bran Castle have reported chilling encounters for decades. Here are the most common supernatural claims. The woman in white. Many say they've seen a lady in white drifting silently through the halls. Some believe she is the spirit of Queen Marie of Romania, who once lived here and deeply loved the castle. But others say she predates Marie, a medieval prisoner who died within the walls, begging for mercy that never came. Her spirit is said to weep during storms. The eyes in the mirror. In one of the upper bedrooms, tourists have reported looking into the mirror and seeing a second reflection, a shadowy figure standing behind them. Turn around and no one is there. The castle's staff has reportedly moved the mirror multiple times, but the phenomenon persists. The torture room. One of the castle's darkest legends is the torture chamber, hidden beneath the lower levels. Chains, iron restraints, and spikes were said to be used on prisoners of war and political enemies. Visitors report sudden dizziness, unexplained bruises, and intense feelings of dread in this part of the castle. Some paranormal investigators claim to have captured electronic voice phenomena, including whispers in old Romanian dialects and one chilling phrase, "Help me, please." The Witches of Bran local lore also speaks of witches who once cursed the land Bran Castle sits upon. Even today, locals are hesitant to speak openly of this, but strange symbols carved into the stonework, particularly around arched doorways and windows, suggest ancient protection rituals. Several psychics have claimed the castle sits on a spiritual crossroads, attracting both the living and the dead. In 2016, Bran Castle began opening overnight stays for brave souls and those who've slept inside the fortress. Many leave with stories they can't explain. Footsteps in empty rooms, sudden drops in temperature, feelings of being watched all night. Some have left early, others never want to return. Fact or folklore? So, is Bran Castle truly haunted? Some say it's simply the power of suggestion, the Dracula myth fueling the mind's imagination. But others, including castle staff, tour guides, and even historians, insist there's something else here. Not vampires, but echoes of pain, of death, and of lives left unfinished. You can tour Bran Castle any time of year. Just don't wander the halls alone, especially after dark, because you might not be alone. Do you believe Bran Castle is truly haunted? Or is the real horror what happened here centuries ago? Tucked away in the quiet town of Stow, Vermont stands a covered bridge that looks like any other, with wooden beams, historic charm, and a peaceful brook running beneath it. But appearances can be deceiving. Locals call it Emily's Bridge, and for over a century, it's been the center of one of New England's most chilling ghost stories. This is the haunting tale of a girl betrayed, a life cut short, and a bridge that may never be at peace. The official name is Gold Brook Covered Bridge. Built in 1844, it's one of the oldest wooden bridges still in use in Vermont. The legend begins sometime in the 1800s, though no official date exists. As the story goes, Emily was a young woman, deeply in love with a man her family didn't approve of. They planned to run away together, to meet at the bridge and start a new life. But he never showed. Heartbroken and humiliated, Emily is said to have hung herself from the rafters of the bridge. Her final act, one of grief, rage, and despair. But it didn't end there. Almost immediately, locals began reporting strange activity on the bridge, especially at night. Some of the most common claims include scratches appearing on cars as they pass through, loud screams echoing from the woods when no one else is nearby, the sensation of being grabbed or touched, even when completely alone, apparitions of a young woman in a white dress pacing the bridge or vanishing into the trees. One of the most chilling patterns, claw-like scratches on vehicles after crossing the bridge. Some believe it's Emily lashing out, still searching for the lover who abandoned her. Others report seeing red eyes staring at them from the darkness beneath the bridge. Is it a poltergeist? Or something else? Paranormal investigators who visited the bridge often describe it as having residual and intelligent hauntings, meaning some events play out like echoes of the past, while others actively respond to visitors. EVPs captured here include, "Why did he leave?" "Don't go," and one chilling whisper, "He lied." Some theorize that Emily's pain created a psychic imprint so strong it became permanent. Others wonder if something darker has taken on her form, feeding off the fear of those who come looking for her. Skeptics say there's no record of a woman named Emily dying on or near the bridge. They argue the tale is nothing more than local folklore, a ghost story passed down to thrill teenagers and attract tourists. But for the people who have seen her or heard her screams late at night, there's no doubt. Emily is real. If you're curious or brave, you can visit Goldbrook Bridge anytime. But if you go at night, be warned. Stay respectful. Don't taunt the spirit. And if you hear footsteps behind you when the bridge is empty, don't look back. Emily's Bridge isn't just haunted by a ghost. It's haunted by a question. What really happened that night? And why? After all these years, can she not let go? Would you cross Emily's Bridge after midnight? In the quiet village of Kirby Whisker, North Yorkshire, there once stood an unassuming pub known as the Busby Stoop Inn. It was a place where locals gathered for pints, stories and laughter. But inside that inn sat a chair, a simple wooden seat, that was anything but ordinary. They say those who sat in it never lived to tell the tale. This is the chilling story of the Busby chair and the cursed legacy of the Busby Stoop Inn. The legend begins in the late 1600s. A man named Thomas Busby, a known drunk and counterfeiter, lived near the inn. He was by all accounts a violent, temperamental man. He had married Elizabeth Orty, the daughter of his criminal partner Daniel Orty. But the relationship between the two men soured over time, and then, one night, everything changed. The story goes that Daniel Orty sat in Busby's favourite chair without permission. The two argued, and later that night, Busby murdered Orty, allegedly beating him to death with a hammer. He was caught, tried, and sentenced to hang. But before he died, on his way to the gallows, Busby is said to have cursed his beloved chair, declaring that anyone who sat in it would die a terrible death. The spot where he was executed later became known as the Busby Stoop. At first it was just a tale, a local legend to scare drinkers and travellers. But then, people started dying. Throughout the 20th century, reports of the chair's deadly curse began to grow. During World War II, airmen who visited the pub and sat in the chair never returned from their bombing missions. In the 1970s, 2 delivery men dared each other to sit in it. Later, both died in a car crash. A roofer who sat in the chair fell to his death later that day. A motorcyclist who took the chair as a joke was found dead hours later after crashing into a tree. Each story eerily similar. Sit in the chair, and soon after, you die. The chair itself was nothing special, an old wooden seat with a curved back and worn legs, but the pattern was undeniable. So many people died after sitting in it that the landlord of the pub, terrified, moved the chair into the basement. But even that wasn't enough. In 1978, after yet another fatality, the chair was finally donated to the Thirsk Museum, where it still resides today. But they didn't take any chances. The chair now hangs on the wall, out of reach, where no one can ever sit in it again. Is the Busby chair truly cursed, or is it a chilling example of self-fulfilling prophecy? A tale so terrifying it becomes reality through fear alone. Paranormal investigators remain divided, but the deaths are real, and the chair remains untouched. Some skeptics claim the original Busby chair was replaced at some point, that the one in the museum isn't even the real artifact. Others believe the deaths were coincidental, but believers argue the curse is very much alive. And those who've seen the chair up close say it exudes a feeling of unease, dread, and death. One thing is certain: if you ever find yourself in North Yorkshire and you come across an old wooden chair once owned by a murderer, don't sit down. Thanks for joining us on the Truth Behind the Haunting podcast. If you enjoyed our journey into the supernatural, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow ghost seekers. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and stay aware of what moves in the shadows.